Yeah. Good afternoon.
Woo!
What else can I say? Good afternoon, everybody. This is the Two Dum Yinzers. Welcome to episode 655. And that's right, we are just on the doorstep of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Cleveland Browns, round 2. You know, it's wild because just a month ago we hadn't played a division game yet.
Right?
Knocked out 4 in a row, and we're about to knock out 4 in a row. And we'll be down just 4 games.
It's tight now, man. It is like down to the wire in the NFL, baby. It's crunch
Good
time.
morning. Good morning, folks. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the show. This is episode 655, the 5 of the Two Dum Yinzers. I want to say to everybody, welcome back. My couple of things before we do get started. You would have thought that the 4 straight games of the AFC North battling was for any team to play 4 straight division games. But Mike, these next 3 games after this week, which I don't want to jump over the Browns because we have that's a big part of the season right now. But the next 3 games after that, they all fall within 10 days of one another. And they're the Eagles, the Ravens, and the Chiefs. That goes from the 15th to the 25th. Talking about a tough part of the schedule. But, Mike, we have a whole lot of time to talk about them games. Let's get into the Cleveland Browns. The Browns coming to town tomorrow, Mike. The big story as of right now is the availability of wide receiving Steelers superstar wide receiver George Pickens. Just yesterday, I think it was, I don't know what day, yesterday maybe, it came out that he was dealing with a hamstring issue, and he is questionable. The only other person to not pass the test to not play this week, Mike, is Montravius Adams. He will not be playing. But Corey Trice, Alex Highsmith, and hopefully George Pickens will all be ready to go tomorrow. Mike, is there any way that we could beat the Cleveland Browns the second time around without George Pickens in the lineup?
I think we can. I think we can. I think we, like George Pickens said, we are the better team. I think we can win that game. I mean, shit, I think we can just run the ball on them and win the game. Use Pat Fryermuth, use Mount Washington, hey, Mike Williams, now's your time to shine, buddy. If George can't play, that's the role you're going to need. You're going to need to be that go threat. Calvin Austin's becoming a deep ball threat as well. Seeing Van Jefferson and Skoranek come up with key plays, I think we can beat them. I think our defense this time around, offense this time around, we're going to beat them. We're not coming off a brutal physical game mentally and emotionally against our biggest rival, in the Ravens. We're coming off a nice victory over the Bengals. Everyone had a nice rest. This team is flying high. I think without George, we can win this game. Now, the next 3 coming up, we will need Pickens, but I think against the Browns, we can definitely win this game without George Pickens. It's going to be a little bit tougher, but we can win the game.
Obviously, the last game, the big the key was the weather. I mean, no two ways about it.
Yeah.
I think if you take the weather out of that, I think the Steelers, even to some extent, was overcomplicating the game strategy against the Browns. I think you hit it right on the head. There's not a lot that this team does well, but the few things they do well, they do very well. If you caught the game the other night, Judge Judy, he had a hell of a night. And then, of course, Chubb, you got to be able to stop the run when you play the Browns. It is what it is in the AFC North. And then also, Mike, trying to figure out a way to stop or neutralize Myles Garrett. He wreaked havoc early last time we played them. We went and we made the adjustments that we needed to make, and we changed that. But Mike, what's this offensive line got to do this week to make sure that doesn't become what affects this game?
Play the way they did against Cincinnati, where I think both sacks that they had were Russ sliding early to the line and Russ running out of bounds. Those were the two sacks. Yeah, Myles Garrett had a lot of pressures that game, and I like what the Steelers did against Trey Hendricks. Let's move Mount Washington over. Help Dan Moore. Dan Moore has been one of the few tackles in the league that's been left on an island. He's one of the has one of the highest one-on-one rates. I think this game, you know what? Give him some help. Let's move Mount Washington over to that side to chip Myles Garrett. We can do that. And what I'm really worried about is the that interior three. Frazier, McCormick, Sayamalo. They did not have a good game the first time against the Browns. They were able to exploit the middle, the rush right up the middle, and that helped Garrett on the outside too. If we can stabilize the middle, those three can step up, which I think they will. They had a great response, a great bounce back game against the Bengals. Then Dan Moore and Mount Washington double teaming, chipping Myles Garrett. That's going to be more than enough. I think this team, I think not just this line, but I think this whole team is ready to show that game was a fluke. We are the better team. We should not have lost that game. And yeah, I think this line is going to play a lot better. But yeah, those interior three, more or less the 4/5 of your offensive line, now that I'm doing the math, has to step up and play a better game than they did 2 weeks ago. And I think they will.
Mike, this game, it's interesting because the Cleveland Browns have lost 20 straight regular season games at Pittsburgh. 20
Yeah.
straight. The last time that the Browns came to Pittsburgh and won a football game was 2003. Tim Couch beat the 13 on October
Yeah.
5th, 2003. The history
Yeah.
obviously isn't on the side of the Browns here. Um, this Browns team, Mike, I mean, there's a few X factors, of course. And again, they
Mm-hmm.
don't have a lot going on, but the few things that they do have going on, effective, I think, the play of this guy. I mean, he's not this great quarterback, but he's one of these quarterback things when they get their
No.
opportunity and he makes things happen. And look, he ended up beating the Steelers in a very
Mm-hmm.
a snowy day, and it wasn't easy to see, and wasn't easy to catch, and it wasn't easy to throw or run. But what did Jameis Winston do when he needed to do? He completed the passes he needed to complete. He did those things. Mike, what now? Obviously, Chubb, Njoku, Judy, all these people. But when it comes down to it, how do you defend Jameis Winston to make sure he's the one that doesn't beat you?
Well, he's not going to beat you with his legs. He's just going to, he's that quarterback that's going to sit back there and sling it. I'm going to do whatever I can in the back end of my defense to confuse him. Mix up man, mix up zone, because he is prone to throw interceptions. He has 11 touchdowns, 7 picks. Last week against Denver, 3 picks? All the way back in the beginning of the month against the Chargers, he threw another 3 picks, 2 picks against the Saints. You have to confuse this guy. He loves to sit back there and sling the rock. My God, he's like Brett Favre. There's no throw that he doesn't think he can make, and he will attempt to make that throw. So I'm forcing him to throw. I'm going to put him under pressure, kind of like we did with Joe Burrow. Make him throw into pressure. But what he can do well is he's really quick getting the ball out. We saw that last week, and we saw a little glimpse on it on Hard Knocks. They were showing some of those screen passes. I think it was against. No, never mind. Disregard that last part. But no, he is good at getting the ball out quick. So we gotta pressure these um, receivers, mix up the coverage on the back end, force him to make longer decisions to where he can't go to his first read or his check down, get pressure on him, mix up the coverage, because this guy's prone to throw picks, man, and we need to take advantage of that big time.
Mike, before we move any further, let's get into the injury report for the week. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, is questionable with his hamstring, which just like every other hamstring in the league, seemed to pop out of nowhere.
I
There was a
know.
little bit of a scuffle at the end of a game, and he kicked a football last week, and now all of a sudden he has a hammy. So I don't know. We'll be paying close attention, but let's go over the report for the week, Mike. It looks like Martavius Adams is the only one that's going to be out indefinitely. George Pickens is questionable. The following players, they missed a little time during the week for various reasons. Mike Williams, he was a resting veteran. Calvin Austin with his concussion, Najee Harris resting, Corey Trice with his hammy, um, Minka some resting time, Highsmith of Kamalo resting, and these following veterans all with some resting time, Michael and Larry Ogunjobi. And then for the Cleveland Browns, they do have a couple guys out here. Maurice Hurst, he is out. Sam Kamara is out. Cedric Tillman is out. And Jedrick Willis is out. Miles Harden is questionable. Juan Thornhill is questionable, and Jamari Thrash is questionable. These other players will be playing. They did miss a little bit of time practice this week. Jerry Jeudy will be a full participant. Elijah Moore, Greg Newsom II, and Joel Bitonio. So, I mean,
Yeah.
no big names. I mean, really, if George Pickens misses, that's, of course, the biggest name. You don't want to see that. You want to see your best, be able to put your best foot forward. But it's hard to say. But, Mike, nothing in these injury reports say that the injuries are going to dictate the way this game goes. Good morning. Good afternoon,
No,
Jen.
yeah, outside of the Pickens injury, that's the biggest one. Um, like the Browns, if Thrash can't go, they're probably gonna have to call someone from the practice squad because it looks like they only have 4 receivers on their active roster, so they'll have to make a move there. But yeah, George Pickens is the big one. If he can't go, I imagine he's gonna suit up and go. I don't see us. No, I don't see him not playing. I see him playing, especially the little chirping he's been doing in the media, which I don't think it's chirping. I kind of agree with a couple members of the media. I think George Pickens does not know the name of any Cleveland Brown player. He just seems like that guy that embodies the Mike
I
Tomlin
love it.
nameless great. The nameless gray faces. You're just here's the guy against you. Here's what he can
Yeah.
do. Well, we're not going to give you. Don't focus on the name. Focus on what they can and cannot do. And George seems to be that guy. So, but no, I hope George can go. And like for the Browns, like they've been dealing with their injuries for a while now, so it's nothing new to them. It's not going to affect how they play the game or how they approach this game.
Coach Cowher, he did stop by practice this week to visit Mike Tomlin and company, maybe getting some of the just the Steeler power in the air. Maybe that will bring us
Yes,
enough,
yes.
just like the terrible towel usually does for this Pittsburgh Steeler team. And
Uh
the
huh.
football gods, they usually shine upon their Steelers in the right moments.
Yeah.
Also, a couple other things, Mike, going into this game. If you're at the stadium tomorrow afternoon at halftime, they will be introducing their class. The new
Mm-hmm.
class of the Hall of Honor is going to be put out, Mike, and they're going to be announced. It's going to be Jason Gilden, of course, the linebacker, Casey Hampton, the nose tackle, Dick LeBeau, the multiple time defensive coordinator on the Steelers, and also Willie Parker, the running back. Those
Ooh,
four guys will be inducted into the Hall of Honor class of this
yeah,
season. So that's going to be fun. And finally, Mike, one other thing, real quick, while you're handing out awards, Larry Ogunjobi is a nominee for the Man of the Year this year.
yeah.
Last year, of course, Cam Hayward won, and quite a few years ago, Russell Wilson won.
Yep.
I don't think that we're going to have to worry about having too many guys on the field with that patch, Mike, because I just
Yeah.
don't think that they're going to go Steelers 2 years in a row. I mean, Larry Ogunjobi could
No.
be the best person in the world. You just
Yeah.
don't see this. They like to spread it around, and but good
Yeah.
for him, and good luck.
Yeah. Yeah, good luck to him. And this Ring of Honor class, my God, Jason Gilden, what for the longest time was the team's leading defender with sacks. Dick LeBeau, what can you say about him that hasn't already been said? Other than that, he should be in the Hall of Fame as a player. When he retired, what he led the league and led the NFL in interceptions for a career. Why he's not in? I don't think he's in as a player. It's a travesty. Willie Parker, we don't win a Super Bowl without him. My God, and big snacks, Casey Hampton. Talk about someone who does not get the credit he deserves. My God, that guy should be up for the Hall of Fame. That's how dominant of a nose tackle he was. Him and Richard Seymour were of this generation, of their generation, were the two of the best.
Yes, Jen, exactly. That's exactly what it is. She
Mm-hmm.
says on the board is Pickens' injury what people feared all year. Heavy dose of Mike Williams. Yes, and maybe
Yes.
we don't know. I mean, last week when you got the ball to 10 different people, Mike Williams was not one of them. That's a bit of a concern for me. But yes, this is exactly this is what we were talking about. I tell you what, Mike and I were talking about this preseason before when the Brandon Ayuk situation was going on. I said, you got to get a good number two. And I
Mm-hmm.
said these words, I think verbatim, Mike, what happens if George Pickens goes down with an injury? And Mike
Yeah.
says, "Ooh, don't say that."
Yeah.
Almost the word. And look, here we are, guys. Very possibly he's questionable, but we don't know. We don't know what's going on with this hammy. It was all of a sudden, but he is questionable. Yes, this was exactly what we feared. It's a very realistic fear. Guys get hurt every game, every play in NFL sometimes. So we will see. It is a concern, especially going into this playoff run. I think that you could call it to wrap up the season. This Cleveland Browns game. It's a big division. We're going for this revenge, the game in the snow globe. This is big. We need to win this game. And then, as I said, the next 10 days, the 10 days between Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Kansas City, like 10 days, you need your number one receiver. And guess what? If you don't have a number one receiver, you better damn well have a decent number two receiver.
Mm-hmm.
We're still trying to figure out if we do have that. I mean, Calvin Austin did very well, but yet he's walking around with a concussion as we speak. So this is exactly what we were talking about, Mike. And I also believe during those conversations, I said, what happens if you're in the stretch and
Mm-hmm.
you lose your number one receiver? Well,
Yeah.
here we are, guys. We're
Yeah.
in the stretch, possibly without our number one receiver. Mike, does Mike Williams touch the ball this week? And if he does, is it enough to become a factor and help the Steelers win?
Yeah. If George Pickens does not go, I'm anticipating him sliding into that spot. You know, they, when we got him, the vision was amongst the fan base was these two both on the outside, running deep, clearing everything out for everyone else underneath. Now, if George can't go, Mike Williams slides into that role. He's not the receiver he once was, but he can still make those contested catches. Him and Greg Newsom will be a fun matchup to watch. I don't think they're going to put Denzel Ward on him, but like Mark Malone said, it's not good at all. It's not ideal, but we don't know the severity of this injury. But
I
wait,
can't wait till Hard Knocks next week so we can find out what happened.
yeah, I know. Maybe he went a little too hard in practice because people were kind of knocking him, like showing he was doing some drills and wasn't running full speed, and fans were knocking him. Yeah, maybe this is why George
So if
kind
the
of like,
injury off of what you just said, do you take that as, oh my God, he doesn't work that hard at all to where he actually works and he pulls his hammy, or he's getting pushed around a little bit by the coaches and he's deciding to say, well, you know what, maybe I just don't
yeah.
feel that great. I'm going to do things my way. I just don't know with him.
With George,
Yeah, good.
I was gonna say with George, what the competitive nature you see from him, I don't see him being the guy like I'm gonna fake an injury to not play. If the coaches are pushing around, I see him as being the guy go out there and like I'm gonna show you why I do what I do, and I'm gonna put up 10 catches, 200 yards, and 3 touchdowns on these guys.
I hope you're right.
I hope I'm right too, but no, it's gonna be a different look offense if he cannot go. It's gonna be interesting to see what they cook up.
Mike, is it possible? And I wish Derpy was here for this.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible that moving forward, why don't we grab up, and we only go by one name on this show for this guy because of Derpy. Why don't we grab up Reynolds? Because Reynolds, when he was leaving Detroit, he was in the market. Derpy went on and on. Let's get Reynolds. And Reynolds went to the Denver Broncos, and Reynolds got cut by the Denver Broncos recently. Mike, would it be a bad idea to maybe reel in somebody like Reynolds to have in our wide receiver room?
If he is healthy, why not? Why not take a look at him and see what you can see if there's anything in there. See if he's willing to come here and play. I Why not? Because I know he was shot. I don't know how severe the injury, the gunshot was, how recovered he is, but why not? Why not take a look at someone like that?
Come on, you wuss. Tupac was shot 5 times. Who's the other one? The other rapper that was shot a bunch of times?
Wasn't it Biggie?
Well, yes.
I
No,
can't.
50 Cent, wasn't he
Oh yeah,
shot?
Fitty was shot like 1,000 times. He's still going strong.
That's what I'm saying. Come on, you Reynolds. I do want to say good afternoon to Mark Malone as well. You know what, boy, if that's not a $1 million question, I wonder if they will pull Roman Wilson off the IR. This would be a nice time for him to step it up and say, you know what, guys. I mean, he's only been injured for 6 months here. I don't know what's going on.
I think he missed the 21-day activation window from his last injury.
What
I
a
could be
waste with
mistaken.
this Reynolds. I mean, not with Reynolds, but Roman Wilson. So we will see, guys. This is going to be a game time decision. I think that George Pickens is going to play. I don't. Again, I'm not going to speculate on a lot on this injury. This will
Yeah.
be something that we watch moving forward because I do know very little about it overall. But I'm hoping that he will play, and I hope that Mike did. I hope you're right, Mike, with your your um, assessment, and maybe he will just go all out and do great and catch the ball 10 times, so on and so forth. Mike, let me throw out a couple numbers here before we do move forward. Najee Harris, he needs 176 yards to become the Steelers' first ever 1,000-yard rusher for their first 4 seasons. Pretty amazing. Also, Mike, Pat Fryermuth. He's got 15. Let's see, Muse 15th touchdown catches, or third most. Okay, so Pat Fryermuth has the third most amount of catches over the first 4 years of their career for the Steelers in Steeler history. So Pat Fryermuth, Mike, is slowly and quietly moving his way up into one of the better tight ends of all time. Believe it or not, Mike,
Wow.
he is the third all time at this point in catches by a Steeler tight end in their first 4 years.
That's not bad. I like it. For the longest time, we didn't throw to our tight ends. It was like Eric Green, and then we didn't throw for a long time. And then, we got Heath, and then we started throwing to Heath and Jesse.
There was a little Bruner action in the middle
Bruner,
of that, because he was
oh
he
my,
was Bruner. People
yeah,
forget that.
yeah. But they used him just as the blocking guy. But he could have been he was a decent pass catcher. And Reynolds was claimed by the Jaguars a few days ago before the injury. So
Oh, the Jaguars.
yeah. When I was doing the research, I was reading. I was like, I missed the article.
Well, here's
My
something
bad.
else I was just reading before we came on, Mike, and you may be able to find this pretty on the top of layers of the Pittsburgh Steelers news. Is the Ravens are afraid to release Deontay Johnson, I'm sorry, because of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, we can't trade for him for a couple
But we can
seasons,
re-sign him.
but we can certainly re-sign him. The Baltimore Ravens, Mike, I typed in Steelers news. It was one of the first stories.
Uh-huh.
It says the Ravens will not release Deontay Johnson because they are afraid of the Steelers. That was all it said. I didn't go into the article. But, Mike, is there any chance in hell? Is there any chance in hell that Deontay Johnson wears a Steeler uniform anytime in the foreseeable future?
You know what? To quote Vince McMahon, never say never. Because that was always his big
As
saying.
much as I want him gone,
You don't want to say no, but because look, he had
at
Ben
least we're used
Roethlisberger.
to his antics and his,
Yeah, yeah.
you
And
know what I
Mike,
mean?
like that meme I posted on the Discord. Wide receivers when they're with Mike Tomlin, they're all sunshines and rainbows, and then they leave and they're all nuts. Like
I wanted him
from
gone
the
more than
shed.
anything, Mike, but I'm not
Yeah,
going to
but now
lie.
you want him back.
There's a piece of me.
Yeah.
There's a piece of me.
Well,
Because
you look at
for a couple things. He's at these other teams. He's causing problems. We've been able to handle him, as you said. Tomlin's been able to keep him under wraps for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, you listen. One of the things I'm concerned about with George Pickens and and possibly Deontay Johnson, there's always a chance of something just
blowing up with those two.
A blown up play out of nowhere where they flip out or give a little bit too much effort into a play or end up in the back of the end zone wrestling somebody or punting a football. And I think Deontay Johnson certainly falls in that category as well. And that's the part of me that don't want him back at all. But I guess there was a little upside when he was here. It wasn't all bad. He did he did well enough for what we have, what we're working with right now. We don't have a number one or we don't have a number two possibly. In that situation, there's a part of me that would not mind having Deontay Johnson back. Yeah. But as we got healthy and headed into the playoffs, I'm going to probably pulling my hair out again because he'll probably be doing his little Deontay Johnson things that he does.
Yeah.
And, and last year, as I said, him and George kind of fed off of each other with some toxic ways. Remember? There was an issue where George just had, and then Deontay was getting in his head. And then Deontay was saying things where you just almost like it's your job. You get a new guy. You don't want some jackass, talking all kind of shit to that new person and putting the wrong ideas in their head immediately. Yeah. You want a guy to get in, be productive, and do a good job. Where I feel that Deontay was a little bit the opposite way there. But Mike, what do you think, Deontay? Overall, what's your thoughts, man?
You know what? I've always liked Deontay. I thought he was a productive receiver. Like his numbers with Ben, 680. 923, 1,100 yards his first 3 years with Ben, 578 touchdowns. Then he had that drop when we had Mitch and Kenny. Then last year, 51 catches, 700 yards, 5 touchdowns. That's what I want out of my number two opposite George. And you saw when Mason got in there and was starting to throw the ball downfield, he responded well. All the drama between him and George stopped. Now I was thinking, okay, you get Russ in, another veteran quarterback that can work with Deontay Johnson and George. I thought, oh my God, these three right here, you're going to put up some numbers. Then you throw in Muth and Najee, be looking great. Then we trade them. And then Dante Jackson turned out to be a revelation, one of the
I
better corners in the NFL. So you love it.
love
And I
Dante
understand
Jackson.
why the Ravens wouldn't do, because you're thinking, okay, you know, look at the interviews where Deontay Johnson said, hey, I talked to Tomlin. People asking, hey, where are you going to be next year? Oh, well, you never know if I can come back to Pittsburgh. Alluding to like, I don't know where I'm going to be after here. It'd be nice to come back to Pittsburgh. Then him refusing to go into the game. They're probably thinking the same thing I thought. This guy's trying to get cut to go back to Pittsburgh. But I don't know if the Steelers would do it. I
Right.
that's what, like, they got rid of him for a reason. And do they want to bring him
Exactly.
back? And they're seeing how well this team is coexisting. But on the flip side, could they be thinking, hey, we have Russ in here. Russ is working some weird voodoo magic, keeping everyone on the same page. Cam Hayward stepping up as a locker room leader, keeping people in line. Maybe
You want
we
to
could put
mess the
this guy
funk's
in.
way.
But if you bring him in and it doesn't work out, you can cut him so quick. You're not committed to anything to him now. He's not under that $17 million a year contract. Be coming in on some piddly, 1 year deal, to where if he comes in disrupt, he's gone. So I would like to see it, just to see how it would play out. I think it would be hysterical. I think it would be funny. But I don't want, like you said, I don't want the chemistry of my team to be disrupted. But he's
Mike, you've been
still a
watching
great
football for
route runner, man.
quite a few decades, and you got
Oh,
to say, I recognize that the chemistry, the
yeah, the chemistry
flow,
is huge.
is such a big thing in pro sports, and you don't want to mess with that if you don't have that
Yeah,
problem. So,
but
Mike,
to quote
yeah,
Jack Ham, winning breeds chemistry. Chemistry,
mm,
that was his big thing. It was like, once you start winning, that's when you notice the chemistry. That's when people are starting to get along. That's when people say chemistry's high,
we
and
kind of fell apart after we were 11-0 the one year, though. So I mean, it's kind of
yeah,
it
that
was,
the whole team fell apart on that
yeah.
one. That wasn't a real good group though. I
Um,
think this group
but
might be a
that did
little bit
not
better.
it
I
did
don't want to.
not
Yeah,
breed chemistry, or I wouldn't say
yeah.
that, Mike. But let me go over a couple of these other numbers real quick, guys. It is the halfway time. It's halftime. Vote, vote, vote. Get out and vote for your favorite Pittsburgh Steeler for the Pro Bowl. I gave you a bunch of results the other day on the show. Guys are doing very well, but some guys do need your help. Mike, Deshaun Elliott, who I feel should be a Pro Bowler, has
Oh yeah.
the tenth most votes in the NFL for his safety position. So he needs your help. Also, Calvin Austin is sitting at 8 with Pro Bowl votes for the return specialist for the game. And finally, Christian Kuntz, our long snapper, Mike, he's at 4. So just some
Ooh,
other some names that you might not have thought of when you're going
yeah.
through pushing the buttons. Those guys are just they're almost there. Get in there, help those guys out, get them voted to the Pro Bowl. Again, the game isn't as fun as it used to be, but it's still an honor to get your Pittsburgh Steelers and see more successful Steelers is always a good thing here at Pittsburgh. So get out, vote. Takes 2 seconds. Go online, whatever you got to do. Vote your favorite Pittsburgh Steelers into the NFL Pro Bowl for 2024. Mike, a couple numbers here. The most turnovers forced by a team. The Pittsburgh Steelers leads this category in all the NFL. 25 turnovers forced by the
Ooh.
Pittsburgh Steelers. Excuse me. This winter's killing me. Guys, also the Buffalo Bills and the Vikings and the Texans all tied at the number 2 spot. They all have 24 turnovers forced. The Packers have they have 23, and then Chicago and Detroit tied both with 19. We are ahead of that. No surprise. And then also, Mike, we are at top of the time of possession
Yeah.
in the league with 33.7 minutes a game. Tampa Bay right behind us, but a very important numbers, Mike, to be at the head of a list. Of course, if you're at the top of the time of possession, you're generally a pretty good football team. If you're at the top of a list of people that causes turnovers, you're generally a good football team. So, I mean, all those things, Mike, that people were saying, all the people that told us that this was not going to be a good team, this team would be in the basement. They said, you know what else they said, Mike? They said this team, they just can't win with field goals. You can't win with field goals against a a real contender. What did they
We
do?
did.
They went out and kicked all field goals against a real contender and beat the Baltimore Ravens. Mike, what else did they say we couldn't do? You can't win shootouts with this team. Russell
Mm-hmm.
Wilson is too old for shootouts. What did they do? They go out and beat Cincinnati in a shootout. Mike, anything that anybody has said all season, preseason, offseason about this team, it's falling apart in front of their faces. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they're legit, they're real. Let me tell you this: if Kansas City loses a game and maybe another one of these top teams in the NFC loses a game, they'll give them another loss. As far as appearance goes, if we win tomorrow, we're sitting at 10-3. You can't not put this team in the list of better teams, the best teams in the league. You can't, Mike. I think Buffalo would be the toughest game, of course, and then I think Detroit. You don't want to play them in the Super Bowl. In my opinion, I want another team, not Detroit. They seem like they would have the football gods may be leaning toward Detroit in a
Yeah.
few areas. I hate to say it, but Mike, this team is as good as anybody else. Like I said, you might be able to peel out Buffalo, maybe somebody else, but anything said, Mike, I think this team certainly belongs at the top.
Oh yeah, we're one of the top three teams in the NFL, not just by standings, but you look at all the metrics. We are one of the better teams in the AFC, and dare I say, we're top six team in the NFL, maybe top five team in the NFL. I don't say us and Green Bay, and we're probably fighting for that number five spot. Um, and this team's answered like last week answered a lot of critics. We ticked a lot of boxes. We like you said, oh, you can't win in a shootout. Okay, let's go win in a shootout.
Yeah.
And this team finds ways to win. We're used to playing down in the muck, grinding out victories. So that's nothing new to this team. And it's been a while since we've been able to win a shootout, so that was nice to see. And like in what stat am I looking for? In close games, records that are close games, we're 6-3. That's probably like one score game. So yeah, when it comes down to a one score game, my God, 6-3, we're one of the best teams in the NFL at it.
And we still haven't lost a game to a team that's in a playoff spot yet.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, we're
say what you want about the
well,
Steelers team. Say what you want.
yeah, they're finding ways to win right now, and hopefully it keeps going. And I don't think we're peaking right now. I think this offense has another gear it can find, and we kind of saw it against Cincinnati. Now it's just getting there consistently, and that's been a problem, especially amongst the offensive line, is playing consistent, and that's what's going to happen when you have two rookies starting and one rookie who should not be starting but was thrust in the lineup that's playing probably above his level right now, and you hope he doesn't come not crashing down, but doesn't regress to where he should be in Mason McCormick. But if those that interior line can play consistently, look out, man. The sky's the limit for this offense.
Well,
Russ is finding ways to get it done. He's being a wily vet. He still has the arm strength for the deep ball, and he still has the arm strength to zip it in there. He's not as mobile as he once was, but he's finding ways to make it work. And whew, it's a thing of beauty.
Mark Malone says, I don't know how we won those 11 games. The offense
Yeah,
was terrible.
yeah.
That was such a weird year. It was, you know what, it was a lot like the beginning of this year, which kind of worried me a little bit when we beat the Falcons 18-12 and we beat the Broncos 13-7 or whatever it was. I kind of got that feel. It was like we're winning these weird kind of losing type situation games. But then the following few years, I think we learned some things about ourselves. I think Coach Tomlin learned some things about this football team by bringing in the quarterbacks that they brought in, and we dealt with for the past 2.5 seasons. Also, as Jen said, you know what, Jen? I couldn't agree more. She said, sure fun to see an offense move the ball. I almost forgot what it was like to see a Steelers offense move the ball until Russell and even Justin came in earlier this year and did what they had to do. Guys, Mike, Mark, Jen, would you guys say that this team is certainly a little bit further up the caliber chart than that team when we went 11-0, or the
Oh,
team over the past 2.5 years? Mike, is it Jen and Mark Malone? Is this team real in your opinion? Not just because you're a Steeler fan, but in just general look overall. You watch all the games, you see all the teams. You guys think this is a legit team? Do you think this team stands a chance?
I do. I do. I'm not just saying that as a Steeler fan. Just by looking at the entire landscape of the NFL, like I would say, like your elite teams right now are Philly, Detroit, and Buffalo. And I know Buffalo's had our number. I think we can find a way to neutralize
I'd like to see
them.
somebody else beat them before we got a
Yeah,
chance
I'm
to play
tired of
them.
losing to them in the playoffs,
Yeah.
but I think we can beat them. I think we can beat Kansas City. Philly's going to be a tough matchup. I think we're going to lose this one coming up just because it's in Philly. We haven't won there since, like, my God, the Hoover administration. It feels like, but I think at a neutral site, I think we can find a way to beat them. And same thing with Detroit. Detroit stumbling a lot of injuries on that defense. Dan Campbell likes to gamble a whole lot. I think that might come back to bite him in the ass, and that's what happened to him last year. So I'd give us a shot against anyone in the NFL. Because this defense, we may give up big plays in the run game, give big plays up in the pass game, but more often than not, when push comes to shove, TJ Watt, Highsmith, Herbig, they find a way to make that game changing play up front. And as long as those three are still going and still going full bore and making plays, I think we can match up against anyone.
And Jen agrees with you. She said yes. Also, Lissy John says, Jen, I agree. I want to see them win against Kansas City or Philly for their playoff psyche. And as I
Mm-hmm.
said earlier, John, you got to remember that all falls within 10 days. On
Yeah.
December 15th, we play the Eagles. Saturday, the same week, we do play Baltimore, and then the following Wednesday. So within 10 days, the 15th to the 25th, we do play the toughest part of our schedule. You know what? We weathered the storm to this point, though, didn't we? We got this far. Not many people would thought that we would be 10-3, and we are not 10-3 yet. But let's say we win tomorrow. Not many people thought we would be 10-3 heading into those three games at the end of the season. So many positives, Mike, that you could pull out of what we've done so far this year, and what you want to say about the Steelers and what it is that we were able to do. I feel good. Mark Melissa's for sure better than that team. I could definitely agree with you on that. He says I felt really really good about them until Cleveland. And you know what? You could always just and what I've been doing basically is saying to myself, if that game was not played in a snow globe, which it was, and I'm not using it as an excuse. I say we're the better team pound for pound, and we just have the better football team. I think we win that football game. I'm going to stick with my argument and say that snow was the great neutralizer again, which is not an excuse, but it
No,
is what it is all that I'm saying. And I think that we beat them this time in Pittsburgh again. The Steelers have not lost to the Browns in Pittsburgh since 2003. Guys, 20 straight regular season games. Tim Couch was the last guy to beat the Steelers on October 5th, 2003. I
Ooh,
like our chances. We got history on our side. Guys, I don't think we lose this game. I just don't.
I don't either. And kind of like the history on our side against going up into Cleveland the past felt like what 8 years or however many games it's been since Ben retired. It hasn't been pretty up there. So and they haven't been able to win here that long. That plays into the psyche of teams. Teams like to say it doesn't, but it
It
does.
sure
You're like,
does.
oh
How did you
shit,
go?
I gotta go here. You're only
How have you
human to
gone
think that.
20 years, Mike? Players
Yeah,
that weren't even alive yet.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Or
yeah,
on this team. So how
yeah.
can it not? If you've gone 20 years, a
Hmm.
different group of guys would eventually come along and break that cycle. It's
Yeah,
definitely in your psyche,
yeah,
being a Brown playing against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
yeah.
And you know what? What a turd organization. I was thinking the other day, I was watching something that had the Browns, and yeah, the Brown dude. Until last season, Jen, the Browns didn't finish above the Steelers since 1988. Last year was the first season that the Browns finished higher than the Steelers since 1988. Not only have swept the
Isn't
Steelers, yeah, Mike, go ahead.
isn't that the year we finished? That was the last time we finished last in the AFC Central slash AFC North was 1988.
No, I'd have to believe so because if the Browns finished behind us ever since then,
Yeah.
there's
Hmm.
no way we could have finished
Yeah.
last.
Yeah.
So guys, again, they're turds. Oh, and that's what I was gonna say. I was watching something the other day, and they got that stupid little that midget in the middle of the field, which has nothing to do with anything. It really don't. It has nothing to do with nothing. It's a little midget munchkin in the middle of the field. Why don't you go with a more fitting emblem, not a logo, a mascot, and change the mascot in Cleveland to Mr. Hanky, the Christmas poo, from South Park? I know you know the guy because what signifies the Browns more than Mr. Hanky, the Christmas poo? Mike, he could dance, he could sing, he could wear a football helmet, all that fun stuff. Get that stupid midget off the field. Come on.
How dare you? How dare you disrespect Mr. Hanky, this legend, the GOAT, Mr. Hanky, by making him associated
Beat
with
the
the Cleveland Browns?
Steelers.
No, no,
anyway.
Mr. No. I like Mr. Hank. Mr. Hanky's awesome. He would not be a Browns fan,
Who's ready for the 0-16 parade?
right?
That's what I'm saying. If anybody deserves to be a turd, for who they are and the color and everything else, Mr. Hanky should be the mascot up in Cleveland. Get that midget out of there. Put Mr. Hanky in the middle of the field. And they wonder why things never go their way.
Right.
Come on. I
Like
mean, the midget doesn't even make sense. What is that thing? It's a munchkin.
a little
Have you
elf
ever? I
thing.
mean, they're dogs. That's always been their
Yeah, I
mascot.
know,
But
I know. I don't. Yeah,
what's that little
like I would
leprechaun?
put that big, What is it? Like a American bulldog that they always have. Just
Yes,
make that your center logo.
that's
That would be awesome. I
intimidating-ish.
I would be like, that's kind of badass. I
Yeah,
like that. Oh no, let's put this little elf thing in here.
how
I don't like it.
dumb.
I think it's stupid. It's stupid. Um, I hate that organization. They're so low rent in
They
everything that
are.
they do.
Mike, we got to get into the over/under here in just a second. I do want to make a comment about the Micah Parsons comment. Micah Parsons says, "I don't believe that the Pittsburgh Steelers defense is number one." He goes, "I don't think they fall in that category. They're not that good." Micah, your defense is number 21. Maybe
Yeah.
move up a couple spots and then you can talk. But as we do sit in the number one or the top two
Mhm.
spots, we'll
Yeah.
take that and enjoy it. Micah, 21 down there in Dallas. So do what you want with that. Mike, it's time to get into the overs and unders for this week's game. I hope you are ready for this. Here we go.
Of course, I'm ready.
Okay, remember, this is an in-division game, AFC North, Browns at home. Here we go. Over or under. Mike, Russell Wilson, 1.5 touchdowns thrown. 1.5
Over,
touchdowns thrown. Over.
over,
Interesting.
over,
All right. Next, Najee Harris, a half a touchdown ran.
over.
All right. I have George Pickens next, but I'm not going to include him. And you know what? I will. You know what? I'm going to do it this way. George Pickens, one half of a unsportsmanlike conduct penalty if he does play.
Over. That's the
Over.
easy
All
money.
right.
My guy will have like $200,000 in fines at the end of the year, and he won't care.
Mike, one half of a pass interference called on while George Pickens is on offense. An interference against George Pickens.
Oh,
Mike, one
under.
half
That's
over
under.
or under.
That's easy money too. They're not gonna. You can shoot George Pickens like he was Reynolds, and they're not gonna call anything.
You know what's crazy? That stupid tackle for the Bengals last week that was offside every single
Yeah,
play, and George
yeah,
Pickens can't get a call down the sideline when the
yeah,
guy's hanging on him. It's
yeah.
unbelievable what's going
It's
on in this league.
comical. It is comical.
Unbelievable. And they say you can't you can't fix games. A call here and a call there goes a long way. Next one, Mike, is Pat Freiermuth, 3.5 catches. Pat
Over,
Freiermuth, 3.5
over,
catches.
over. He's been getting like 4 catches a game. I'm taking that.
Mike Skoronovic, how you say his name?
Skoronic.
Skoronik, Mike, 3.5 catches.
Ooh, ooh. Under. Slight under.
And finally, Mike, on the offensive side here, Mike Williams, a half a catch.
Over. Over.
Interesting.
I'm not taking the over until it happens.
Also, Mike, one more. Two
He's
more on
out
offense.
there. You see him out there.
Chris Boswell, 2.5 field goals. 2.5 field goals made.
Ooh, under.
Under. Interesting. And then finally, Mike, on offense, 1.5 turnovers. Turned the ball over 1.5 times, more or less.
Over. I think it'll happen.
All right, over to the defensive side of the ball. Turnovers caused by the Steelers defense, 1.5. Mike, does this team cause more or less than 1.5 turnovers?
Over, baby. Over.
Cam Hayward, a half sack. Mike, does he get a sack this week? No. Push, 1/2 sack. What do you think?
See, this is tough. This is tough because he had a whale of a game last week.
Mm-hmm.
So that means he's due to have a disappearing game that everyone in the media forgets to talk about. So I'm going to take the under. This is the game where he's going to disappear.
Mike, TJ Watt, 1/2 of a sack.
Over. Redemption game.
Nick Herbig, 1/2 of a sack.
Over.
Nick Herbig and TJ Watt, 1.5, or I'm sorry, 1/2 a forced fumble. Between TJ Watt and Nick Herbig, 1/2 forced fumble, over or under?
Ooh. You know what? I'm taking the over.
Mike, Deshaun Elliott, 7.5 tackles.
Ooh. This is a tough one. I take the over.
All right.
Yeah.
Dante Jackson or Joey Porter Jr. a half of an interception.
Over.
All
Over.
right.
This is the game for JPJ.
I hope you're right, man.
Let's go shoeless Ike Taylor Jr.
And finally, Mike, devastating injury. We know all about this. No explanation on what this over-under is. Mike, a devastating injury to the Pittsburgh Steelers, being somebody of great production or great value to the team. Mike, do we lose somebody in a devastating injury this week? 1/2 is the over-under. Do we go over or under?
Under. We come away healthy.
All right, that'd be great. Come out of this Cleveland game healthy and go into those 3 games, getting a little bit more healthy as we get there. So those
Yeah.
3,
We came into last week pretty healthy.
yeah, we sure did.
Yeah. Up until Friday.
Yeah. Yeah, come on. That's what I'm saying. Something just stays off with this for
Yeah,
me.
that's like a walkthrough day, man. That's just a light day.
And
What
he's
can you
been
do?
generally pretty healthy ever since he's
He's
been here.
he's
There
he's
hasn't
never
been,
missed a game. He's never
yeah.
missed a game. I don't think he's missed a snap due to injury. He's missed snaps to being a dumbass.
Finchie says 34-24, his final score
Ooh.
on the board. Steelers. Mike, I want you to tell me right now. Tell me right now what is the keys to beating the Cleveland Browns, and give me your score. I know that you've done it on the picks, but I want to do it right now as well. Mike, what's the keys to beating the Browns tomorrow, and what is your final score prediction, just to go along with Finch throwing his up there?
My keys to the game, when we have the ball, one is just control the clock, time of possession. Obviously score more points, but no, establish the run, keep that time of possession. We see what's happening there. Use the middle of the field. We saw what we were able to do against Cincinnati when Russ started using the middle of the field. It opened up everything else for the offense. So attack that middle, establish the run, keep Myles Garrett in check. Whatever you have to do, you do to keep. He's a game wrecker. You hate to say this as a Steeler fan, but he is a game wrecker. You saw what he can do, and like Finch is saying, get the tight ends involved. And I think that's the middle of the field right there. On defense, stop Nick Chubb. Don't let him go. Don't put Joey Porter Jr. on Jerry Jeudy, because that's just going to be a flag fest if you do. I'm doing what we did against Cincinnati. I'm putting Dante Jackson on him.
Wasn't it a flag fest in Cincinnati too?
Yeah, but not against Dante Jackson.
Okay.
Yeah, and and also confuse Jameis Winston. Let him think he has an opening by mixing up man and zone. Play man on one side, zone on the other. That still confuses some of the best quarterbacks. It should be able to confuse him.
And as you've seen, if you watched the Thursday Night Football game the other night, that Lions-Packers game, you got to. Even if your defense doesn't, generally run this particular style, you got to change things up. You got to confuse these quarterbacks, and you got to get to them. Bottom line, I seen the Lions. I mean, there was at one point in the game where they were dropping defensive tackles back in the coverage, and they were bringing safeties in on the. It's really amazing what they did. Meanwhile, I do want to say the other night, because we didn't get to talk, Mike, the Lions did win that game 34-31 over the Packers. It was a pretty good game. And I do got to say that most of those prop bets that I told you about, they did hit. There was a couple that didn't. So if you would have took my advice and bet on that game the other night, you would have won a few dollars at least. Mike, so that is the Cleveland Browns game. That is what you feel that the Steelers need to do. What is your final score prediction, Mike? Mine is 23-10. But I listen. Instead of giving a score, I want to give you the area of my score, because I think 23-10, 20-10, 20-13, 23-13. Those scores, it's going to be something like that.
In there. Yeah.
20. I'll say 20-13. That'll be my pick.
Yeah, I think we're going to put up at least 28. It's going to be like a 28-20-17 or 28-17 game, excuse me, somewhere in that range. It wouldn't surprise me if we go over 30 again. They take over into the 20s, but I think we're going to win by 2 scores.
Also, Brian says, I don't think you need to confuse Winston. He says, I think that he takes care of that himself.
Well, he does, but if you could add to it, if you can compound the confusion.
I think he's doing pretty well. I think we have to bring our A game, guys. He's not Joe Burrow. He's not Lamar Jackson. No. But you know what? At the end of the day, you got to bring your A game against everybody. And if you don't, you're going to find your way to the loss column. Brian says 28-10.
And Jameis, he will have games where you think, my God, this guy can be an upper echelon quarterback.
Absolutely.
And then he has games like last week where it's like,
Yeah,
come on, what are you doing, bro? So that's why I don't take him lightly, like some people want
I don't
to.
either.
Like he's
Hey,
been a starting quarterback in this
they
league
beat
for a
us.
reason. Yeah,
They beat us.
yeah, yeah,
Guys, at
and
the end
like
of the day, we
yeah,
had a Hall of Fame quarterback in the snow. We couldn't
hmm
beat him. So at the end of the day,
yeah,
they beat us.
yeah, yeah.
Got to take him
There's a
serious.
reason why teams keep going to get the guy. Yeah,
Absolutely.
he's not your long term answer, but in like this half type of a
If
season,
he
he's a
wasn't
good
good,
quarterback
Mike,
to have.
he would have worked his way out of this league if he wasn't a
No,
good quarterback.
especially
Not a
like some of
great.
the off field antics he had when
Right.
he was younger in college and stuff. Yeah,
Florida State, he had all them
yeah,
issues.
and you saw what he did in Tampa Bay before Tom Brady came in and became quarter. He was the quarterback that could have, the year before they went to the Super Bowl, he did all right down there, and he
Mike,
did all right with some bad
the
teams down
schedule
there.
going into the weekend looks like this for any important games. Of course, we play the Browns. As far as the AFC goes, the Jets play the Dolphins. Really, no bearing on us. The Jaguars and the Titans, no bearing on us. AFC also, the Raiders play the Buccaneers. Blah blah blah. Like the Bills play the Rams. You know what? That could be a good trap game for Buffalo. They're going out to LA. I don't see it happening, but that Rams team, they find their ways to win football games, certainly over the past 5 years, even when I never really thought they were that great of a team.
Mm-hmm.
Might possibly a trap game for the Buffalo Bills, but the game I think is Sunday night of the weekend. That's the Chargers and Chiefs. If we
Ooh.
stand any chance of moving up, and which is very hard because the top two spots are at a premium, it's
Okay.
going to be extremely hard moving up, especially at this point with the Buffalo Bills and their weak schedule. Kansas City, I do feel they could lose. I think they could lose a couple games, especially if you lose this one, and then you get upset by the Steelers on Christmas Day. Guess who's the number 2 seed? Number 2 is always better than the number 1 seed. We'll take that. And Mike, also before you do comment on that game, the Bengals do play the Cowboys on Monday night next week. I think that should be a complete crap fest between two teams. They're probably better than what their record shows, but at the end of the day, neither one of them are going to get to the playoffs between the Bengals and the Cowboys. Mike, your thoughts on possibly the Chiefs taking an L to the Chargers on Sunday night?
I think they are going to take the loss. I think in our I think in our prediction show, I do have the Chargers going over the Chiefs. I like the way that Charger team is coming together, man. They're playing some of their best football right now at the right part of the season. Like the Steelers, I still think that offense has another gear to find. It's not your conventional offense. There's not many real big name targets on the receiving corps after they got rid of their two big guys in the offseason. So I like the way they're playing. I like the way that defense is playing. They have a really good offensive line too. That's a recipe for success. And again, it's a divisional opponent.
And another
Anything can happen in those games, man.
And another thing to keep in mind, the Ravens are off this week. We do have the
Yeah,
opportunity to
I
gain a
will.
half a game on
Let me.
Baltimore if we do win, gaining a half a game on Baltimore if we win
Yeah.
now that the schedule's even out because all the bye weeks will be out of the way and
Mm-hmm.
it'll be good to you know. So Mike, we do have a lot of stuff still to get into. We got why don't you go ahead and now? You know what? Let me jump into this first. Mike,
Yeah.
the Pittsburgh Penguins, they finally have their streak broken as they went up to New York last night and lost to the Rangers 4-2. The Penguins fall to 11-13-4 overall, but they're back at it today at 7:30. Toronto Maple Leafs will be in town tonight at 7:30 for the Penguins to play. Also, a big game if you're a fan of the Happy Valley football team from
Oh
Central
yeah.
PA. Number 3 Penn State takes on number 1 Oregon in the Big Ten championship today at 8 o'clock. Guys, that's a huge game. Of course, Penn State's trying to win the Big Ten overall. And a couple other big games, Mike, is Georgia versus Texas. That game's at 4 o'clock. And Clemson versus SMU, 8 o'clock. So you do have some good college ball today while you're getting ready for the Steelers tomorrow. Mike, also the where are we at here? High school wise, Western PA, we got 2 teams representing us. Central Catholic, they'll be taking on St. Joe's Prep today at 7 p.m. Central Catholic, of course, where Dan Marino's out of, and St. Joe's Prep is basically a pro team playing in high school.
Mm-hmm.
That game is at 7 o'clock. And Avonworth, the team that beat my high school and knocked them out of the playoffs, they are going up against Northwestern Lehigh at 1 o'clock today for going for the gold in the state championships, guys. So good luck to both of those teams, Central Catholic and Avonworth. Finally, the Pittsburgh Penguins, they hire a 76-year-old Brent Strom as an assistant pitching coach. Way to improve your baseball team in Pittsburgh. Go out and get the oldest possible guy that you could think of, bring him in, hire him, and make him somebody that's I don't know, Mike. I'm so glad it's not baseball season. I just dread when that comes around at this point. Unless I've been hearing some rumors saying they are going to make a splash move, but with the Pirates, who knows what that means. Mike, why don't you go and tell everybody about the website?
The2dumyinzers.com. Check it out, everyone, especially if you're new here. We got the blog up there. We got the merch store. We got the links to all of our social media and the Discord links in there. So check out the2dumyinzers.com.
Go check it out, everybody. www.the2dumyinzers.com. That's www.the2dumyinzers.com.
I'll fix it.
One other thing, Mike, I do want to say, a lot of people are concerned about the possible leaving of Arthur Smith after this season going to North Carolina. That may have got roadblocked because the rumor on the street is Bill Belichick actually interviewed for that job.
Yeah.
So, which I think is even more interesting.
Does his girlfriend go there?
Right? Yeah. She's getting ready to start college next year. She's graduating high school.
One comment I saw, I think it was on Twitter, is he didn't like paying the professionals. Now he's going to have to pay the college kids. Get out of here.
Yeah.
I don't see it. I don't see why he would interview for that unless he's going down there to interview and
he's looking for chicks, man.
Looking for chicks, or talking up one of his former assistants, maybe to get them back into the coaching ranks. Like, hey, give one of my guys who has failed in numerous places as head coaches to give them a chance.
I don't know how this guy picks up chicks anyway. He's always got the mustard stains on that nasty sweatshirt and pit stains and everything else, and that hoodie that he wears. But he's picking up the chicks apparently. Mike, it's time. It is time for the very last Cleveland Brown trivia question of the year.
Thank God.
Here we go, Mike. Put on your thinking cap, everybody on the board, everybody at home. This is the question of the day. The other day, we did have a question on the trivia on the show, which was how many playoff games have the Steelers or have the Browns been involved in so far since they became the new Browns, 1999 to 2024. The question was somewhere along those lines. How many games did they participate in? Mike, the new Browns team, of course, it is a Browns question. The new Browns team is 1-3 in the playoffs. Okay, we've decided that they're 1-3. For the trivia question of the day, Mike, I need you to give me the three teams that eliminated the newest franchise of the Cleveland Browns, which would be this team that started in 1999 till today. 25 years they made the playoffs. 3 different years. Their record is 1-4. Of course, we know where that win came from. We don't want to talk about that. But Mike, the 3 losses. Can you tell me who the 3 losses that gave the Browns their 3 losses in the playoffs since they re-arrived in the NFL in 1999? Brian says, why doesn't Mike ever seem to look like he's putting on his thinking cap?
Interesting.
Mike, who were the 3 teams? I'll give you a hint. One was in 2002, one was in 20, and one was in 23. They're all different teams, no repeats. Who were the 3 teams that knocked the Browns out of the playoffs since they returned as an expansion team?
Go with Kansas City.
Okay.
Screw it. Let's go with Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I know they beat us that one year. I think we beat them once. And let's go with. Ooh, tough. Let's go with the Jets.
And the Jets. And is this your final answer?
Yeah. I see, Brian. I was going to go with the Patriots as well, but I don't know. I felt like they would lose to the Jets.
Mike said the Steelers, the Chiefs, and the Jets. Brian said the Steelers, the Chiefs, and the Patriots. The question of the day, guys, is this Cleveland Browns team, since they were an expansion team in 1999, are 1-3 in the playoffs. I need to know the 3 losses. They came in 2002, 2020, and 2023. There are no repeat teams. Brian says the Steelers, the Chiefs, and the Patriots. Mike says the Steelers, the Chiefs, and the Jets. Guys, the Steelers did do it back in 2002. They beat the Browns 3 times that season and then went on to lose to Tennessee in a crap ending. The second one was 2020. The Chiefs did win that game as well. The Chiefs won that game, I'm sorry. And, guys, Brian says the Patriots. Mike says the Jets. You guys were both so close, but incorrect. It was the Houston Texans last year.
Ooh.
It was the game where Joe Flacco ended up throwing all those interceptions. Houston beat their asses in the playoffs and knocked them out. Guys, the Steelers, Kansas City, and Houston is the answer. So good job to that. The best was, yes, Tommy Maddox was that 0-2 game. You're right. Absolutely,
Yeah.
100%. Yes. They had a guy named Michael Jackson was one of their receivers, if you recall. The Cleveland
Hee
Browns
hee.
did. Cleveland Michael Jackson, everybody. Mike, but what was your prediction? I'm sorry, what was your prediction for the game?
Around like,
Oh, it was like 20,
28 17, 30
28-17.
something
Okay.
17. Yeah, somewhere in that range. We're going to find a way to win.
All right. Guys, Mike, before we start getting ready to wrap it up, you got anything anything in particular you want to bring up, talk about? Anything of that nature?
No, I'm just preparing myself for another letdown from Penn State in the playoffs. Another team to let me down in the playoffs, like the way the Penguins and the Pirates and the Steelers have done recently. Penn State can join the ranks.
That's true. Big game tonight. Don't forget,
Yeah.
guys. Don't forget there is a big game. There's a few big games. If you like college football, again at 4 o'clock, the Georgia Bulldogs take on Texas. 8 o'clock, Clemson and SMU, and also 8 o'clock, number 3 Penn State taking on number 1 Oregon for the Big Ten championship and for playoff implications. I'm sure that game's at 8 o'clock, and also the Penguins will be back in action tonight for the second straight night. This time hosting the Toronto Maple Leafs. That game starts at 7 o'clock. Of course, the big stuff is always going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers, 1 o'clock Sunday, guys, here at Pittsburgh Acrisure Stadium. It's time for revenge. Cleveland, they merely make this like it's a thing, but it's not really a thing. People in Pittsburgh don't care about Cleveland anymore. That's so old and
No.
played out. Killing me, man. The Ravens are obviously the big rivalry. And again, let's go take care of business here at home. Beat the Browns. Get ready because, again, 4 games left after that, Mike. 4 games, 3 within 14 days, which are the Eagles, the
Mm-hmm.
Ravens, and the Chiefs. And then after that, that gauntlet, we do go back and play the Bengals one more time against a pretty good offense. So let's get it started tomorrow. Get this win at home and go from
Yeah.
there. 10-3 if we win, guys. 10-3 if we win.
Yeah. This game is, I think this game is a must win, especially with those 3-10 coming up. Corey, to answer your question, I think George it's a coin flip if he's going to play. And yeah, I think if they don't have him, they're going to blitz. But like we said earlier in the show, we're hoping that Mike Williams will play and quasi fill that spot.
I think George Pickens plays tomorrow. I think George Pickens goes off tomorrow. I think the guy is creating a storyline for himself. We had some controversy. Oh, I'm injured, but then I come out and have an amazing day, which I believe that he certainly could have against the Cleveland Browns defense. But as Mike said, we're hoping. We're hoping. I just I got a feeling. I got a feeling that he will play, but I could be wrong, guys. I do want to say thank you, everybody, for coming and hanging out and checking us out today. We certainly appreciate each and every one of you. We truly, honestly do. We wouldn't do it without you. Thank you so much. I do want to say thank you, everybody on the board. You guys always keep things interesting, and everybody at home as well. Brian did say great show, guys. Now time for darts, and more darts. Of course, Brian is in the dart league and things like that. So good luck with your darts, and more darts. And again, Mike, I'm still lobbying for the change for the Cleveland Browns mascot from that stupid little munchkin to Mr. Hanky from South Park. I think that would be so much more fitting for the Cleveland Browns. But
Oh, you're a
what do I
nut.
know?
You're a nut.
I think that'd be it for me, my friend. Anything else
That
for you?
No. Hey,
Speak
if
now.
anyone has, if they have not popped up on your feed, check it out. I've been posting shorts twice daily. Been trying to over on the YouTube. So yeah, check them out, everyone.
Go check it out. Mike's doing a lot of great stuff, guys, and we do have a lot of things in the work. I think you're going to be really excited to see the things that we do have coming here at the end of the year into the new year. A lot of new ideas and things in the work between Mike and myself and the guys. I can't wait. I can't wait to get to all that, and it's going to be a blast. So, but right now, guys, it is Steeler game eve. Tomorrow's game day. We're going to wake up. Get your terrible towels ready, get your jerseys ready, and get ready for this Pittsburgh Steelers team to go 10-3. Cleveland Browns at Pittsburgh tomorrow at 1 o'clock. We'll be back first thing on Monday to talk about this game in depth and all around the NFL and all the other things as well. Again, a lot of things going on in the sports world this weekend. So, Mike, good luck to your Penn State Nittany Lions against Oregon today.
We're gonna need it.
And good luck to our Pittsburgh Steelers tomorrow. Guys, I thank you so much again for everybody for hanging out with us. We appreciate you. We truly, honestly do. For Mike in the Steelers Central Mobile Studio, for myself, the two Dum Yinzers, everybody have a great weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday. Go Steelers.
Go Steelers.